We know all the negative publicity coming around him, but Andy Dalton and the Bengals are playing well. And the Bengals, for a number of years, have been very, very talented. Every once in a while, we make the excuse to Andy Dalton. Sometimes he becomes challenged as far as him throwing the ball down the field and him leading this offense. But at this point in his career, man, he's spreading the ball around to the number of weapons that they have. They have a huge injury. Tyler Eifert, he's injured again, out for the rest of the season. That's going to hurt them. So see how the offense is able to adapt with him being out of the lineup. But Andy Dalton's playing good football. This is a must-win for Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh cannot afford another loss, especially this early in the season, a divisional loss. Man, just imagine what will be coming out of that Pittsburgh locker room if Cincinnati's able to put a loss on. Cincinnati is playing good football this point in the season.
I'm glad you talked about how important this game is for Pittsburgh, because we don't talk about the Bengals hardly at all. They're 4-1, so I want to talk about them for just a moment. If they win this week, they've already beaten Baltimore. They can really separate themselves in the AFC North. They have Kansas City the following week, a game that got flexed into Sunday Night Football. You know how hard it is for the markets Kansas City and Cincinnati to be flexed into a primetime game? It only happens if you think both teams have the potential to be very good.
It's probably harder to see you flexing at the gym than see them flexed into the schedule.
Wow, I'm out here making real points and you're just taking shots at my physique. That's uncalled for. Just because you're back down to your playing weight. Also easy.
Sorry.
Wow.
Sorry.
What? All right, I'm out.
Let's all be on the same corner. If we're going to do it, let's do it.
Hey, the Bengals, they are one of the...
You're going to make my point.
Yeah, we should put some eyeballs on the Bengals. We always talk about the 4 or 5 teams, but when you start getting sidetracked with someone's body work over there, the Bengals and Andy Dalton, you can't criticize Andy Dalton.
He's played well this year.
Also, from a defensive standpoint, from interior, we always talk about Aaron Donald, but Geno Atkins is one of the best. Gets it done against the run, one of the few defensive tackles that can rush the passer. He's playing outstanding football now for the Bengals also.
A.J. Green, 5 touchdowns this year, famously 3 on that nationally televised game against Baltimore. If the Bengals win this game, they are the favorites in the AFC North. If the Steelers are able to win, and I think they will be able to win, then we're going to say, oh, so they got themselves right, and with Le'Veon Bell coming back potentially after the bye. So it's a huge scene.
The Bengals,
you're a jerk.
The Bengals, like the Chargers, quietly putting together a very good season, but before anyone realizes it. So that game is going to be a good one against the Steelers.
I tried to help people realize it. Y'all out here talking about my body.
And take a sip, because that's how the jokes come out. Moving on to Baker Mayfield and the Browns. They host the Chargers on Sunday. Browns haven't won back-to-back games since 2014, but there is new energy in Cleveland, and that energy wears number 6. This week, Baker said the Browns are capable of making the playoffs, but it will not be easy. The Chargers have won 2 in a row. Here's their head coach, Anthony Lynn, on what he sees in Mayfield and the Browns.
They were talented last year when we played them. You know, that was a scary game for us. So, like I said, they just learned how to win, Ashley. You know, they've won some close games. They're 2-1. They could be 4-1 right now. So it's a dangerous football team.
All right, what do you expect from Baker on Sunday? Is this doable? Can they keep this momentum going, Nick?
I want to see if Baker will play a great game. And I say great because while the Browns have won 2 of the 3 games since he's come in, he hadn't played great football start to finish. Started into the lineup at right before halftime, the game that the comeback against Oakland. He's had some great moments. I thought the overtime drive that ended up leading to the game-winning field goal was elite quarterback play on that drive. But we've seen Baker make some elite throws and not yet put up what I would consider a full elite game. To beat the Chargers, you are probably going to have to attack them through the air. You're going to have success through the air, because you know Phillip Rivers and that Chargers team, at least up to this point, have been one of the most prolific passing attacks on their own. His defense has done a great job, his being Baker's, of getting him extra possessions, forcing turnovers. And so this is a game that, for the Browns, we were talking about the AFC North a moment ago, is a critical game for them. The Chargers are a team that's 3-2, but we don't really know who they are because of who they've lost versus who they've beaten. This is a big game for Cleveland, a game that, once again, I mean, against a good team, they're a pick-em at home. So there's talent there. I'd like to see Baker. You guys know how high both of us are on Baker. I'd like to see him have a complete football game.
Yeah, I think Baker will play well. I think that when you judge rookie quarterbacks, you have to put them in a different category, because you're going to have inconsistency there. You're going to have quarters where they're not going to play well. That's why they're called rookies.
Sure.
And with Baker, of all the rookies, he's got more pressure on him because Todd Haley and the staff there, they have more confidence in Baker. So they take more chances with Baker. So you are going to see him go up and then come down a little bit. But because the coaches are taking chances, you see the highs that the other rookie quarterbacks are not going to get because their coordinators and the people calling the plays don't have the comfort level. I think that we should start put a little more optics as far as who Cleveland's going to be. Yes, it takes a quarterback to be able to change a franchise, but their style ultimately should be based on their defense. They're playing at home. I believe they have a tremendous home field advantage through the years when they played good football, the dog pound, and they played good defense. And right now, that crowd, I believe, will get behind Baker and this team. But when the opposing team, the Chargers, is on the field, I believe the Browns and the energy that the coach Lynn talked about, that Baker's brought back, it should be transferred from that crowd, the dog pound, into that defense. And I believe that Sundays in Cleveland will be back to being one of the special places that we've seen in the National Football League.
And that is where the talent, the overwhelming talent on Cleveland's roster, is on the defensive side of the ball.
Yes.
The most talented player on their roster right now is Myles Garrett. Denzel Ward is on the very short list. If he's not second, he's third.
Yes.
Larry Ogunjobi's another very good defensive lineman.
Yeah, Jamie Collins.
Kirksey, another linebacker. They brought in Demarius Randall. There's a reason that the Browns right now have what I believe to be the best pass defense in football so far this year. They've picked off more passes than they've allowed touchdowns. They're allowing a 74 passer rating. That's better than what the Jags are allowing. This Browns pass defense has been elite, and they're going up against a quarterback in Phillip Rivers who has the statistical resume of a Hall of Famer, and he's having his best statistical season. So that matchup is one really to watch. Can Myles Garrett take advantage of what I think is an average Chargers offensive line?
Yes.
Myles Garrett had a huge first few weeks of the season. Strip sack game for him this weekend.
So why aren't we talking more then about the Chargers? Is it because of the way their schedule has played itself out?
Because their 3 wins are against arguably 3 worst teams in football, Bills, Niners, Raiders, and their 2 losses are against the 2 best teams in football, Chiefs, Rams. How many teams, would be 3-2 with Bills, Niners, Raiders, Chiefs, Rams on their schedule? 15 of them?
But I do believe, Jenna, there is more reasoning behind it, not only just the schedule. I believe there's a bias against the Chargers. I believe that from a media standpoint, we don't cover them with the same optics, with the same enthusiasm. I think that sometimes, even when Phillip Rivers and LT were there, they were disappointments, had great regular seasons. Let's not forget about Marty Schottenheimer, the disappointments in the postseason. So I think that there is a bias, but they're really, really talented. And I thought that this year they were going to be one of the teams that made that big jump, another 2 or 3 wins to their season. I think Joey Bosa getting hurt early in the season, that takes a lot of the football eyes off of the Chargers. And I don't think Phillip Rivers has gotten nearly enough credit as Ben has gotten and as Eli Manning have gotten. So I believe that there is some type of bias. It's one of the few biases against L.A. compared to the Midwest and the East Coast.
It's hard to get super excited about a team when we feel like their own fans don't get super excited for them, when they have to do silent count at home. But I want to ask you one thing about the Chargers before we move on. We know Melvin Gordon's good. We know Keenan Allen's excellent.
He can be really good. He had a significant back injury that really prevented him from reaching his potential early.
His rookie year.
And he really, people was like, is he going to be a bust? But he's one of those other receivers that came out of Clemson, and he's opposite of Keenan Allen. Big guy who can run, can be a deep threat, but also can be that possession receiver. I expect him to be a Pro Bowl receiver within his first 4 years. Yeah, really big-time talent that the Chargers do have.
All right, we got to take a break. Coming up on the other side, Dak's got some bold claims you're not going to want to miss. Stay tuned. Next on First Things First.
You know who does not have an East Coast bias? Sue. Yeah,